Lily sat on the balcony of her cozy apartment, sipping her morning coffee while gazing out at the bustling city below. At 28, she had carved out a life for herself as a graphic designer, pouring her creativity into every project. Yet, despite her success, a lingering sense of inadequacy shadowed her. Growing up, she had always felt like the second choice, overshadowed by her younger sister Sophie, who seemed to effortlessly capture their parents' attention and affection. As she reminisced about her childhood, Lily's mind drifted back to family gatherings filled with laughter and warmth, but also to the moments that stung. The times when her achievements were brushed aside in favor of Sophie's dance recitals or her latest accolades. It was as if her parents had a spotlight reserved just for Sophie, while Lily was left to navigate the shadows. Today she was visiting her childhood home for the first time in months, a mix of excitement and dread swirling in her stomach. She hoped to reconnect with her family, but deep down she feared that the old dynamics would resurface. As she stepped into the familiar living room, the scent of her mother's cooking wafted through the air, momentarily easing her anxiety. But as she settled in, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Little did she know, her life was about to take a dramatic turn. While she was there, she would stumble upon a secret that would shatter her already fragile sense of belonging and force her to confront the painful truth about her family. Lily took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. Today would be different. Today she would find her voice. As the afternoon sun streamed through the large windows of her childhood home, Lily felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her. The walls were adorned with family photos, capturing moments of joy and laughter, but they also served as painful reminders of the love that seemed to flow more freely towards Sophie. After a hearty lunch, Lily excused herself to explore the house, hoping to find some comfort in familiar surroundings. As she wandered through the living room, she noticed the door to her mother's study slightly ajar. Curiosity piqued, she approached and paused, hearing muffled voices from within. "We'll finalize everything before Lily gets wind of it," her mother's voice floated through the crack, laced with a conspiratorial tone. Lily's heart raced as she pressed her ear against the door, straining to hear more. "Are you sure this is the right decision, Mom?" Sophie's voice chimed in, sounding both eager and uncertain. "What if she finds out?" "Trust me, Sophie. Lily is too wrapped up in her own world to notice. Besides, she's always been the emotional one. She won't fight back. This inheritance is meant for you. You have the ambition to do something great with it," Karen replied, her voice dripping with a mix of affection and disdain. Lily's breath caught in her throat. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Her mother was planning to leave everything to Sophie, dismissing Lily as if she were nothing more than an afterthought. The realization that her mother viewed her as lacking ambition and direction stung deeply. "Mom, I just don't want to hurt her feelings," Sophie said hesitantly. "Lily will understand. This is for the best. You're the one who deserves it," Karen insisted, her tone firm. "She's always been the one to drift. You have the potential to make something of yourself." Lily felt her heart shatter as she stood frozen in the doorway, grappling with the weight of her mother's betrayal. All those years of feeling overlooked and undervalued came rushing back, and she could hardly contain the tears that threatened to spill. With a surge of anger and determination, she stepped back from the door, her mind racing. She would not let this go unchallenged. She would confront her mother and fight for her rightful place in the family. As she turned to leave, a fire ignited within her. This was not just about money. It was about her worth, her identity, and reclaiming the love she had always sought from her family. As Lily retreated to her old bedroom, the familiar scent of lavender and the sight of her childhood drawings on the walls brought a flood of memories. She sank onto her bed, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on her. The room was a time capsule filled with remnants of a girl who had once dreamed of becoming a renowned artist. but those dreams had often been overshadowed by her sister's achievements. In her mind, Lily replayed the moments that had shaped her feelings of inadequacy. She remembered the day she had won first place in a local art competition. Her heart had raced with excitement as she rushed home to share the news, only to find Sophie basking in the glow of her own success. She had just been accepted into a prestigious dance academy. "Look, Mom, I got a trophy," Lily had exclaimed, holding up her award with pride. "That's nice, sweetie," Karen had replied absent-mindedly, her eyes glued to Sophie as she twirled around the living room, demonstrating her latest dance routine. "But look at your sister. Isn't she amazing?" Lily's heart had sunk as she watched her mother's attention shift entirely to Sophie, her own triumph fading into the background. Another memory surfaced. Her high school graduation. Lily had worked tirelessly to maintain her grades while balancing her passion for art. As she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, she had felt a swell of pride. But when she looked into the audience, she saw her mother cheering for Sophie, who had just been awarded a scholarship for her dance performances. "Lily, you should be proud of your sister," Karen had said later that day, her voice filled with warmth. "She's going to do great things." "But what about me, Mom?" Lily had asked, her voice trembling. "I worked hard too." "You'll find your path, sweetheart, just give it time," Karen had replied, brushing off her concerns with a smile that felt more like a dismissal. These memories replayed in Lily's mind like a haunting melody, each note a reminder of her struggle for validation. She had always felt like the backup plan, the one who would eventually find her way, while Sophie was the shining star destined for greatness. Now, as she sat in her childhood room, the pain of those moments surged back, fueling her resolve. She would no longer be the overlooked daughter. She would confront her mother and demand the respect and recognition she deserved. With a newfound determination, Lily wiped away her tears and began to formulate a plan. She would gather evidence of her accomplishments, reach out to friends who could support her and prepare for the battle ahead. This time, she would not be silenced. Lily spent the next few days in a whirlwind of emotions, her mind racing with thoughts of the conversation she had overheard. The betrayal felt like a heavy weight on her chest, but it also ignited a fire within her. She realized that she could no longer remain passive in her family's narrative. It was time to take control of her own story. Sitting at her desk, surrounded by sketches and design projects, Lily picked up her phone and dialed her best friend, Mark. He was a lawyer, and she knew he would understand the gravity of her situation. After a few rings, he answered, his voice warm and inviting. "Hey, Lily, what's up?" Mark asked, sensing the tension in her tone. "Mark, I need your help," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I found out that my mother is planning to leave everything to Sophie in her will. I can't just sit back and let this happen." There was a brief silence on the other end before Mark responded. "I'm sorry to hear that. Have you talked to her about it?" "I overheard them discussing it. She thinks I'm not ambitious enough to handle the inheritance," Lily replied, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I need to fight for my share, for my dignity. I can't let her dismiss me like this anymore." "Okay, let's take a step back," Mark said, his tone shifting to one of professionalism. "You'll need to gather evidence of your accomplishments and any instances of favoritism. We can build a case together." Lily felt a surge of hope. "What do you suggest I do first?" "Start by documenting everything. Gather any awards, letters of recommendation, and even testimonials from people who can vouch for your character and achievements. We'll need to show that you're deserving of your share," Mark advised. "Got it. I'll start working on that right away," Lily said, determination flooding her voice. After hanging up, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She began to sift through her old boxes, pulling out trophies from art competitions, certificates from design courses, and letters from mentors who had always believed in her talent. Each piece of evidence was a reminder of her hard work and dedication, and she felt a sense of empowerment as she organized them. Lily also reached out to friends from her past, reconnecting with those who had witnessed her journey. She contacted her high school art teacher, Mrs. Thompson, who had always encouraged her creativity. "Of course I'll help you, Lily. You've always had such talent. I'll write a letter for you," Mrs. Thompson assured her. With each conversation, Lily felt her confidence grow. She was no longer the girl who faded into the background. She was a woman ready to reclaim her narrative. As she prepared for the battle ahead, she knew it wouldn't be easy. Confronting her mother and sister would be emotionally charged, but she was ready to stand her ground. This was about more than just inheritance. It was about her identity, her worth, and her right to be seen and valued. With her evidence in hand and a plan forming, Lily felt a sense of clarity. She was ready to confront her family and fight for her rightful place. With her resolve solidified, Lily dove headfirst into her preparations. She knew that to confront her mother and Sophie effectively, she needed allies, people who could support her and validate her experiences. The first person she thought of was Mark, who had always been her rock. He had a way of making her feel grounded, even in the most chaotic of times. Over the next few days, Lily met with Mark regularly, sharing her progress and brainstorming strategies. They sat in her favorite coffee shop, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air as they mapped out her plan. "Okay, so you've got your evidence lined up," Mark said, tapping his pen against his notebook. "What about emotional support? You might need someone to stand by you when you confront your mom." Lily nodded, considering her options. "I think I should reach out to some of my old friends. They've seen how hard I've worked and they can help me articulate my feelings." "Great idea. The more people who can vouch for your character, the stronger your case will be," Mark encouraged. That evening, Lily sent messages to a few close friends from high school and college, inviting them to meet up. She felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as she awaited their responses. To her relief, everyone was eager to support her. The following weekend, they gathered at a local park, the sun shining brightly as they settled on a picnic blanket. Among them were Jessica, her college roommate who had always admired her artistic talent, and Ryan, a childhood friend who had witnessed the favoritism in their family firsthand. "Lily, it's so good to see you," Jessica exclaimed, pulling her into a warm hug. "We've missed you." "Thanks, Jess. I really appreciate you all coming," Lily said, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I need your help with something important." As they settled down, Lily shared her story, detailing the conversation she had overheard and her decision to confront her mother. The reactions were immediate and supportive. "I can't believe your mom would do that," Ryan said, shaking his head. "You've always been so talented, you deserve recognition." "I'll write a letter for you too," Jessica chimed in. "You've worked so hard, and it's time people see that." Lily felt a wave of relief wash over her. Surrounded by friends who believed in her, she felt stronger and more determined than ever. They spent the afternoon reminiscing about their shared experiences, laughing and sharing stories, but the underlying current of support for Lily's cause was palpable. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park, Lily felt a sense of hope. She was no longer alone in this fight. With her friends rallying behind her, she knew she could face her family and demand the respect she deserved. "Thank you all for being here for me," Lily said, her voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't do this without you." "Just remember, we've got your back," Mark said, giving her a reassuring smile. "You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for everyone who's ever felt overlooked." With her allies by her side, Lily felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was ready to confront her mother and sister, armed with evidence, support, and the strength of her own convictions. The day had finally arrived for Lily to confront her mother and Sophie. She felt a mix of anxiety and determination as she prepared herself for the family dinner that evening. The air in her childhood home was thick with tension, and she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. As she entered the house, the familiar sense of her mother's cooking wafted through the air, but they did little to ease her nerves. Karen was bustling around the kitchen, humming a tune, while Sophie sat at the dining table scrolling through her phone. The scene felt deceptively normal, but Lily knew that beneath the surface, everything was about to change. "Hey, Lily, you're just in time for dinner," Sophie said, looking up with a bright smile that felt disingenuous to Lily. "Yeah, I'm here," Lily replied, forcing a smile as she took a seat at the table. As they sat down to eat, Lily's heart raced. She could feel the tension building inside her, and she knew she had to speak up. After a few minutes of small talk, she cleared her throat, her voice steady but firm. "Mom, can we talk about something important?" Karen looked up, her expression shifting from casual to concerned. "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" Lily took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she placed them on the table. "I overheard you and Sophie talking about the will. I know you're planning to leave everything to her." The room fell silent, the clinking of silverware halting as both her mother and sister stared at her in shock. "Lily, Karen began, but Lily cut her off, her emotions spilling out. "You think I'm not ambitious enough, that I don't deserve anything, but that's not true. I've worked hard for everything I've achieved, and I deserve to be recognized for that," she said, her voice rising with passion. Sophie's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. "You're being dramatic, Lily. Mom just wants to make sure the money goes to someone who will use it wisely." "Use it wisely?" Lily echoed, incredulous. "You mean use it to fund your dance career while I'm left with nothing? I've always been the one who supported you, who cheered you on, and now I'm being pushed aside like I don't matter." Karen's face flushed with anger. "That's not fair, Lily. You've always had your art, and you've done well for yourself, but Sophie needs this opportunity. She's the one who has the potential to make a difference." Lily felt her heart race as she fought to keep her composure. "And what about my potential? What about all the years I spent honing my craft? I've won awards, I've built a career, and yet you still see me as the lesser daughter. I won't let you dismiss me any longer." Tears welled in her eyes as she continued. "I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for recognition, for a fair share of what our family has built together. I deserve to be treated with respect." The tension in the room was palpable, and for a moment it felt as if time had stopped. Karen's expression softened, and Lily could see the conflict in her mother's eyes. "Lily, I never meant to hurt you," Karen said, her voice trembling. "I just thought I was doing what was best for the family." "Best for the family?" Lily replied, her voice breaking. "You've always put Sophie first, and I'm tired of being the one who gets overlooked. I want to be seen, Mom. I want to be valued." Sophie looked between them, her expression shifting from defensiveness to uncertainty. Maybe we should talk about this more. I didn't realize how much this was affecting you, Lily." Lily took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I just want a chance to prove myself, to show you that I'm worthy of being part of this family too." As the conversation continued, Lily felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this confrontation could lead to understanding, to a new beginning where she wouldn't have to fight for her place in her own family. After the intense confrontation, Lily felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. While she had finally voiced her feelings, she knew that words alone wouldn't change the situation. The next step was to take action, and that meant preparing for a legal battle. With Mark's guidance, she began to navigate the complexities of contesting her mother's will. In the following weeks, Lily and Mark met regularly to strategize. They gathered all the evidence she had compiled: awards, letters of recommendation, and testimonials from friends and mentors. Mark helped her organize everything into a compelling case that highlighted her achievements and the emotional toll of her family dynamics. "Lily, we need to show the court that you're not just fighting for money, you're fighting for your dignity and recognition," Mark emphasized during one of their meetings. we'll need to present a strong narrative that illustrates the favoritism and how it has affected you." Lily nodded, feeling the weight of the task ahead. "I understand. I want to make sure they see the real me, not just the daughter who's been overlooked." As they prepared for the legal proceedings, Lily also reached out to her friends for support. Jessica and Ryan offered to testify on her behalf, sharing their perspectives on her hard work and the favoritism she had faced. Their willingness to stand by her side bolstered her confidence. The day of the court hearing arrived, and Lily felt a whirlwind of emotions as she entered the courtroom. The atmosphere was tense, and she could see her mother and Sophie seated at the front, their expressions a mix of apprehension and defiance. Mark stood beside her, offering a reassuring nod. "You've got this, Lily. Just remember why you're here." As the proceedings began, Lily listened intently as Mark presented their case. He outlined her achievements, emphasizing her dedication and the emotional impact of her family's favoritism. The judge listened carefully, occasionally glancing at the evidence they had submitted. When it was Lily's turn to speak, she felt her heart race. She stood up, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "Your Honor, I'm not here to take away from my sister's dreams. I'm here to ask for recognition of my own worth. For years, I've felt invisible in my own family, and I want to change that." She shared her story, recounting the moments of neglect and the pain of being overshadowed by Sophie. As she spoke, she could see the judge's expression soften, and she felt a surge of empowerment. "I've worked hard to build my career as a graphic designer, and I deserve to be acknowledged for my contributions to this family," she continued, her voice steady. "I want a fair share of what we've built together, not just for myself, but to show that I am worthy of love and respect." After her testimony, the courtroom fell silent. The judge took a moment to consider the evidence and the emotional weight of Lily's words. Next, Mark called Jessica and Ryan to the stand. They shared their experiences, highlighting Lily's talent and the favoritism they had witnessed over the years. Their testimonies painted a vivid picture of the dynamics within the family, reinforcing Lily's claims. As the hearing progressed, Lily felt a mix of hope and anxiety. She knew that the outcome was uncertain, but she was proud of herself for standing up and fighting for her place in her family. After several hours of testimony, the judge called for a recess, allowing everyone to take a break. As Lily stepped outside the courtroom, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had done everything she could, and now it was in the hands of the court. Mark joined her, a supportive smile on his face. "You were incredible in there, Lily. No matter what happens, you've shown so much strength." "Thank you, Mark. I just hope the judge sees my side of the story," Lily replied, her heart still racing. As they waited for the proceedings to resume, Lily felt a sense of camaraderie with her friends. They had all come together to support her, and that alone made her feel less alone in this fight. After a brief recess, everyone returned to the courtroom, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Lily could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she took her seat, glancing at her mother and Sophie, who appeared tense and defensive. The judge, a stern-looking woman with glasses perched on her nose, called the court back to order. "Let's proceed with the case," the judge announced, her voice firm. "I would like to hear from the defense." Lily's mother stood up, her expression a mix of determination and anxiety. "Your Honor, I would like to clarify my intentions regarding the will," Karen began, her voice wavering slightly. "I never meant to hurt Lily. I thought I was doing what was best for my family. Sophie has always been the one with the drive to succeed, and I believed she would use the inheritance wisely." Lily felt a surge of frustration as she listened to her mother's words. "Best for the family," she thought. "What about me?" Sophie stood up next, her voice shaky but resolute. "I love my sister, and I never wanted this to come between us. But I've always felt the pressure to succeed, and I thought that if I had the resources, I could make something of myself. I didn't realize how much this was affecting Lily." Lily's heart ached at her sister's admission. She had always seen Sophie as the favored child, but now she could sense the weight of expectation that had been placed on her sister's shoulders. The judge listened intently, her brow furrowing as she considered their words. "It seems there is a significant emotional component to this case," she said, glancing at Lily. "I would like to hear more about the family dynamics and how they have influenced your relationships." Lily seized the opportunity. "Your Honor, if I may," she said, standing up once more. "I want to explain how this favoritism has affected me. Growing up, I always felt like I was in Sophie's shadow. No matter what I accomplished, it was never enough. I've struggled with my self-worth because of it." She took a deep breath, her voice steady. "I've worked hard to build my career as a graphic designer, but I've always felt like I had to prove myself. I want my mother to see that I am capable and deserving of recognition, just like Sophie." As she spoke, she noticed the judge's expression soften. The room was silent, and Lily could feel the weight of her words hanging in the air. Then, something unexpected happened. A piece of evidence that Mark had submitted earlier, a financial statement showing discrepancies in how their parents had allocated funds for their education, was brought to the judge's attention. "Your Honor, I would like to present this document," Mark said, holding it up for everyone to see. "It shows that while both daughters received support, there were significant differences in the amounts allocated for their respective pursuits. This pattern of favoritism has been evident not just in emotional support, but also in financial backing." Lily's heart raced as she watched the judge examine the document. She could see the realization dawning on her mother's face, and for the first time, Karen looked genuinely concerned. "Is this true, Karen?" the judge asked, her tone serious. Karen hesitated, her eyes darting between Lily and the judge. I didn't realize the extent of it. I thought I was being fair, but I see now that I may have favored Sophie without meaning to." Lily felt a mix of hope and apprehension. This was the turning point she had been waiting for. If her mother could acknowledge the favoritism, perhaps they could begin to heal the rift that had formed between them. "Your Honor, I just want a chance to be seen and valued," Lily said, her voice breaking slightly. "I want to rebuild my relationship with my family, but I need to know that I matter just as much as Sophie does." The judge nodded thoughtfully, her expression contemplative. "It's clear that this family has deep-rooted issues that need to be addressed. I will take all of this into consideration as I make my ruling." As the proceedings continued, Lily felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. She had stood up for herself, and for the first time, she felt like her voice was being heard. After what felt like an eternity, the judge called for a final recess, allowing everyone to gather their thoughts before she delivered her ruling. Lily sat in her chair, her heart racing as she exchanged glances with Mark, who offered her a reassuring nod. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, and she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. When the judge returned, she took her seat and looked around the room, her expression serious. "I have carefully considered the evidence presented, as well as the emotional testimonies from both sides. It is clear that there are deep-seated issues within this family that have affected each member in profound ways." Lily held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. She could see her mother and sister sitting stiffly, their faces a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. While it is important to honor the wishes of the deceased, it is equally important to recognize the emotional and psychological impact of favoritism within a family, the judge continued. "Therefore, I am ruling that the will be amended to ensure a fair distribution of assets between Lily and Sophie." A wave of relief washed over Lily, and she felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had fought so hard for this moment, and now it was finally happening. "Additionally," the judge added, "I recommend that this family seek counseling to address the underlying issues that have led to this conflict. It is crucial for both daughters to rebuild their relationship and for the mother to understand the impact of her actions." Lily felt a mix of emotions, relief, gratitude, and a glimmer of hope for the future. She glanced at her mother, who looked stunned but also relieved. Sophie's expression mirrored her own, a mixture of surprise and understanding. As the judge concluded the hearing, Lily felt a sense of closure wash over her. She had stood up for herself, and in doing so, she had opened the door for healing within her family. After the proceedings, Lily, Mark, and her friends gathered outside the courthouse. The sun was shining brightly, and the air felt lighter than it had in weeks. "You did it, Lily!" Mark exclaimed, pulling her into a celebratory hug. "I'm so proud of you." "Thank you for believing in me," Lily replied, her voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without your support." Jessica and Ryan joined in, showering her with congratulations. "You were amazing in there," Jessica said, her eyes shining with pride. "You stood up for yourself, and it was inspiring to watch." As they celebrated, Lily felt a sense of empowerment she had never experienced before. She had fought for her place in her family, and now she could finally begin to heal the wounds that had been festering for so long. Later that evening, Lily returned home, her heart full of hope. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to take the first steps toward rebuilding her relationship with her mother and sister. In the days that followed, Lily reached out to Karen and Sophie, suggesting they meet for coffee to discuss their feelings and begin the healing process. To her surprise, both agreed, and they met at a cozy cafe, the atmosphere warm and inviting. As they sat down together, Lily felt a mix of apprehension and hope. "I want us to talk about everything that's happened," she said, her voice steady. "I think it's important for us to understand each other better." Karen nodded, her eyes filled with remorse. "I'm so sorry for how I treated you, Lily. I never meant to make you feel less than Sophie. I see now how my actions affected you, and I want to do better." Sophie chimed in, her voice soft. "I didn't realize how much pressure I was putting on you either. I love you, Lily, and I want us to be close again." As they talked, the walls that had separated them began to crumble. They shared their feelings, their fears, and their hopes for the future. It was a difficult conversation, but it was also cathartic, allowing them to express their emotions and begin to understand one another. By the end of the meeting, Lily felt a sense of relief. They had taken the first steps toward healing, and she was hopeful for what lay ahead. As she walked home, she reflected on her journey, the pain, the struggle, and ultimately the triumph. She had fought for her place in her family, and in doing so, she had discovered her own strength. Lily knew that the road to reconciliation would take time, but she was ready to embrace the journey. She had learned that her worth was not defined by her family's perceptions, but by her own actions and resilience. With a renewed sense of purpose, she looked forward to the future, ready to create a life filled with love, understanding, and the recognition she had always sought.